Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Change Leadership episode this Wednesday with Kevin Hoey. Hey, Kevin, welcome back.
Hi, Vasco.
So, Kevin, on Wednesdays, we like to explore the whole idea of change. It's not just about change as in, agile transformation, which is a big part of it, of course, but change in all its let's say depth, I think we could call it, right? Because it can be a personal change, our own change, somebody else's change. It could be a team level change, could be an organizational level change, or it could even be a product or market driven change. So let's explore one of those processes, change processes, that is, Kevin.
Sure.
And walk us through the process from beginning to end, what was happening at each step. And as you go through the steps, highlight for us the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
Yeah, sure. So I think this is quite a difficult question to answer because everything we do is change all of the time. And if there's only one thing that always happens, it's change when you're a Scrum Master. And I guess often what we see is it's easy working within your team, and all Scrum Masters are good at working within their team and good at working. It's the change when you have to change people and departments outside of your team. That's where you face the challenges. So I've had it before where my team's working really well, but it's the friction you get working with departments outside of your team. I think that's sometimes can be really difficult, and it comes again from their kind of mindset sometimes. So they're not within your Scrum team. They don't know how you work, and when the pressure's on, they revert to micromanaging, and so they want deadlines, definite answers, kind of that command and control thing. And they really sometimes struggle, I think, to understand that, what we're doing is we're providing you the value as soon as we can. Often we'll work towards an MVP, and it's the scope that will flex. So there's a lot of coaching that you have to do around that. So I had a team where we were getting significant amount of pressure for deadlines over this. And what we had to do was kind of then work with our stakeholders outside of the team, myself with the product owner as well, just to explain and to show them what we're doing and how we're delivering value as early as possible. So we would take the scope that we were asked for, we'd try and understand what the MVP was. Then we show that actually what we're doing is we're going through it in order. We're trying to deliver the most value first. And then if we finish everything in time, we'll start working on these other things. But what we should be able to do is deliver something that's working. And then every 2 weeks after that, just do something extra and add that on. So that's often one of the biggest changes and the biggest difficulties you have is convincing people outside of the team that the way you're working is the best way to work, I think.
And when you think about that specific change, right? Because I mean, and you have a project management background as well, so you know how important it is for project managers. And when you're in an agile organization, maybe it's not a project manager, maybe it is a product owner, or maybe it's just a product manager. Somebody wants to give somebody else the certainty. Yes, we are going to deliver, and very often we kind of confuse we are going to deliver with we are going to deliver on time and with all the things you have asked us, plus all the things we don't yet know that you will be asking us from now until then, which is of course impossible. It will never happen because let's say the amount of ideas that come up as soon as we start delivering software is so high and so large that no team in the world would ever be able to deliver on all of those ideas, right? So what have you learned about working with these people who typically need to convince other people that, yes, everything is under control and we will deliver on time? What have you learned about working with these people that are so deadline and scope driven?
Yeah, 100%. Deadlines exist. That's how we make money. That's how things go live. We have multiple clients. You have to talk their language. So lots of them think Agile's mumbo jumbo, and we're shirking our responsibilities by not committing to deadlines. And I kind of go back to them saying, no, we're committing to the deadline. What we're not committing to is the scope, because there's so much unknown. So I could give you a Gantt chart if you want one, and I could tell you that we're going to go live, and you'll find out we're not going to go live with everything when it's too late, but you've got that security, and you can, run that up the flagpole, and as it gets, further up the chain, your project gets greener and greener, until at the top, everyone thinks everything's fine until it's too late. What I'm trying to do is be realistic and show you that, okay, you've got a deadline can't move. That's fine. What we're not going to in any way change is the quality of what we're doing. So this is the quality that we work towards. We're not going to put undue pressure on our people, because yes, there's a deadline this month, there's a deadline next month, and a deadline a month after. So we can't just keep, we can't work people too hard and use them as the kind of lever to really pull to make teams go faster. What we're going to do is look at the scope. And that's how we're going to reduce what we're doing. Sometimes it's like the scope, the number of features that we're going to deliver, or it's actually even within the features, what can we do to make each of those slightly smaller? But ultimately, what we're trying to do is deliver the least amount of code and the least amount of features to get you the value that you want. So often it's going back to them, to re-ask those questions. Do we need all of these things? Can actually we deliver value faster if we just deliver some of it earlier? And often having those conversations, results in a different approach, and it can be really positive. We had a time at Christmas where we had 2 deadlines at the same time, and this exact thing happened to us. And it was two of our probably biggest clients. And so I had a PM who kind of went into bat for the team, our product manager, explain how we can't do both things at once. And it was really good. We were able to focus on one thing, get that done really well, and then switch and then focus to the second thing and get that done. So we bought that. With the second thing, what we had to do was go live with, it was about 90% of what the client wanted. What we didn't have was a few of these fallback processes, but then actually we'd worked out these are probably only going to be used by about 1% of customers, but it was about half the amount of work that we needed to do. So we were able to deliver 99% of the value on time, and then go back to all of these unhappy path things and then fix them and then release them every week after that. That worked really well.
It's really important, that story that you just told, because Christmas is a great example, because it always comes at the same time. It never waits for you. You're either out and delivering value, or you're not and you're losing value. So
yes,
it's a very simple example. That's why I call it the Christmas problem, right? Like delivering on time, it is just like the Christmas problem. You need to deliver for that market. And one thing that really comes to mind is the importance of learning how to slice work. You called it how to split work. We were talking about it also yesterday. And the idea is that in order for us to be flexible with scope, we need to be very mindful and deliberate about how we split the work, how we separate the pieces of value, if you will, that are kind of agglomerated in each of the stories or epics that we might be working on, right?
Yes.
And we then need to give that to the product managers or other stakeholders. So what are some of the lessons you've learned about that, about having that conversation that shows stakeholders the power of being deliberate about splitting work?
Yeah, so I guess it's by making stuff small and splitting it down into the smallest valuable increment, you can then choose which ones often you want to deliver first. And if you're aiming for something big and you miss, you don't deliver anything. So I'm reducing risk here by, you want this set of features, 10 features or whatever, and this is what you want to release. If we break that down and make it into smaller pieces, if we get behind schedule, you're still going to get 9 of the 10. And is there value in the 9 of the 10? Most of the time there is. And it's having that conversation up front rather than waiting to the end and having that. It's having it up front, having that conversation early, trying to really understand what is valuable for the customer, and then your internal stakeholders. That's how we've done it. Sometimes we've gone live and to make it quicker, there's no validation, for example, on a field. Yeah, we've gone live, there's no validation on the field. A few days later, there is validation, and it's like, that's a trade-off. I can give you this trade-off. Are you happy to have this for 2 days and we can meet that deadline? Yes, I am. Perfect. We can do that for you.
And one thing that you said that I want to highlight, because I think it is kind of a mental tool we can use, is that if we are able to split work into their component deliverables, right? So we're talking about incrementally, right? So if we can talk about working these different split increments, we can then choose which ones are more valuable to us. And you said that, and I really want to highlight that, because that is what gives us the actual scope flexibility that we need to deliver on time.
Yeah, that 100%. And it means you can deliver some of them and people can change their mind. Once people see stuff, they're like, oh, that's not quite what I wanted. There's actually more value to re-going over those first 3 and tweaking those than delivering the next 3.
Or just saying, it's enough, let's stop it.
yeah, 100%. And we have that, we have product teams, platform teams, component teams, all with different pressures, and sometimes you can't purely work on one product. You have to balance and juggle things, and by having small things, I'm giving my product owner and product managers the ability to juggle what they deliver, and that gives them that flexibility as well, so they can keep multiple stakeholders happy.
Absolutely. And such an important skill to have. Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. It's a great story and a great set of heuristics for us to apply.
Thank you.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.